Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Tuesday and the patch notes have been posted, which means it's time for the top 5 changes of patch 11.18. As always, I'll be going through the biggest changes in this week's patch and letting you guys know what you can be looking forward to or looking out for in the coming weeks. Now 11.18 is the first of 2 Worlds patches, so there are a bunch of pro-focused changes on this week's patch. There are also a bunch of really spicy changes, so I do highly suggest you read all these patch notes, as there are a lot of important things here that I couldn't talk about all of them. But suffice to say, if anything is too out of line or not good enough or has taken the champion too far out of viability, Riot do have another patch in order to fix things up rather than hoping this helps the World's meta out. So in general, let's go ahead and start talking about things here, starting off with our number 5 change, which are the Draven buffs. I've talked about these a little bit previously. I'm not sure how effective this is going to be. This is definitely more of a pro-skewed change, as pros are going to be more likely to have high stacks of League of Draven and therefore be able to get more value out of that execute. But definitely it is still a relevant change in general, because in solo queue, if you can hit somebody and take them low health with Whirling Death, even a couple of stacks that you have might be enough and make the difference between the target surviving with, triple digit health or the target getting killed. So we'll see how it works out in game. I'm not sure it's a huge deal for Draven and would bring him into professional viability, but it's there, it's nice, and it's definitely the kind of change I like to see Riot experimenting with. Moving on down to the Lillia changes. Now, Lillia has been an interesting pick because Riot want her to be viable in the jungle, as she kind of was earlier this season, but the problem is with buffing her in the jungle is that they'd also buff her top lane, which they're trying to not do. So these changes are essentially a reshuffling of power, more importantly, the health regeneration. Lillia's health regen has gone down to 0.05 at base and only scales up with 0.55 per level. Lillia has garbage health regeneration, and unless she is in combat with a large jungle monster, she's basically not healing for anything at all. Obviously, this is compensated for the fact that she does heal against large monsters and champions, and the healing against large monsters was increased, so in that regard, she's getting a little bit of a compensation, but that's a huge nerf. That means that it's essentially, if Lillia plays PvP at all, she is not going to be able to sustain herself back up after a fight, right? If she's low and she, but she survived the fight, she has to recall if she wants to heal. Just flat out, she has to recall or she has to smite something. So in that regard, this is definitely a big way to shift Lillia away from top lane. Riot did give her a couple of other small buffs to her Q and E in order to help compensate and soften the blow a little bit. I feel like this definitely takes top lane Lillia out of contention overall. Does it make Lillia jungle more enticing? I think a little bit, maybe not enough for the pros though. Moving on to our next change here, we are going to be talking about Qiyana, as these are some interesting changes. Now, quite frankly, I feel like these are actually a net nerf to Qiyana overall. Now, they did give Qiyana some buffs to help her out in the jungle. They gave her more base attack speed, and Edge of each tile now does 25% bonus damage against monsters. It's a pretty spammable ability in the jungle especially, so in that regard, Qiyana can clear a lot faster, which kind of sets her up as sort of a mid-jungle flex pick, which is kind of nice, but she did take a couple of significant nerfs here. More importantly, her E damage went down, and her EQ combo is no longer unavoidable. Now, there is a very small window in which a champion can flash or dash or break line of sight, and you're no longer guaranteed to hit the follow-up Q after using your E. Now, this I think is a good change overall. Is it a net nerf to Qiyana? Yes, it is, but it also means that because she's less reliable now, and there's more sort of skill involved with actually playing the champion, that Riot have the leverage to give her buffs in other places, which I think is a very important thing for Qiyana going forward, especially given that we know we have another patch to kind of compensate. As is, I feel like Qiyana isn't going to make much of a difference in pro play, but if Riot sort of realize, hey, taking that out was a big power drop, they have the opportunity to buff her back up and potentially get her into viability, as I feel like she's not too far off, and giving her some power back and making her a sort of mid-jungle flex pick actually opens up a ton of opportunities for this champion. So I am a big fan of this change. I think it's one to keep an eye on going forward, and I think that if it's followed up with more Qiyana buffs in the next patch, she is going to be a pro play pick. Moving on to our number 2 change here, I'm cheating a little bit by naming 2 champions to one spot, but it's going to be the Dr. Mundo and Soraka changes. I made like a full video about this, so if you want my whole breakdown, I will have that link down in the description for you guys to take a look at. But suffice to say, Dr. Mundo and Soraka are getting a small couple of changes here to essentially help them cheatsy doodle their way around grievous wounds. Dr. Mundo now gains health as opposed to healing for 20% missing health upon activating his ultimate, though the max health percentage that he gains over time has been nerfed to compensate, and Soraka's R now completely removes grievous wounds on all affected targets before it applies the heal, of course. These are pretty big changes for these champions. I feel like, in general, these changes are more acceptable on these picks than other champions that have healing, because these champions don't just have healing as a core identity. Like, these champions are healing. If Soraka can't heal, or if Dr. Mundo can't heal, they don't do anything, as opposed to Aatrox or Vladimir or Yone, who's building lifesteal, right? Like, all these champions can heal, but they do things outside of healing that gives them value that these champions don't have at all. I think these changes are really spicy. I feel like these changes are also more likely to have an effect in solo queue rather than in pro play. But that being said, I do feel like that these are definitely big enough changes that these champions need to be on your watch list going forward, because I do feel like it's going to make them a lot more reliable than they have been previously. Finally, onto our number one change here. It is the Taliyah buffs. I'm super excited about these changes. As mid lane Taliyah, I started playing when the champion first came out. I never really liked jungle Taliyah very much. That's why I dropped the champion. But I feel like these changes have a huge potential to bring back mid lane Taliyah. The reduced radius on worked ground, in addition to the worked ground duration going down from 45 to 25 seconds, means that Taliyah will have so many more 5-stone threaded volleys than you're used to before. Like, I can't overemphasize that. She has more ground to work with, and she's going to be able to reuse ground that she's previously used a lot more often. Now, obviously, she doesn't have the AoE Q back, but in general, having more threaded volleys still means that she has some degree of the wave clear that she used to have, which is quite nice. The small buff here to the threaded volley on worked ground, refunding 50% of the cooldown, is also a nice little quality of life change here. But in general, I feel like this is actually a pretty big change for Taliyah. It doesn't hurt her jungle clear at all either, so this might also set up Taliyah as a mid jungle flex pick in pro play. I legitimately think this change has the potential to make Taliyah a pro play pick. I really do, so I'm really excited to see how this shapes up. But that's kind of my read on it. If you guys main Taliyah, please let me know what you think of this down in the comment section below. If I'm, overreacting, or if I'm spot on, let me know all that down in the comments. And that is going to be it, guys. Those are the top 5 changes of patch 11.18. There are so much more in this patch, though, so definitely read the patch notes. And if there are any changes I didn't talk about, let me know what you're excited for down in the comments. I would love to hear about it. Like I said, there's so many other things that I could talk about all day, but I'm not going to do that. So let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like. And if you really enjoy the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days like today as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.